Greetings, travelers. Welcome to Boss Your Monster, where we take your favorite bosses from games and turn them into monsters so you can use in your next D&D game. We'll be using the 5th edition of D&D for this, but with homebrew monsters, anything we come up with is really on the table. For the first episode, we will be looking at everyone's favorite trio from the underground of the fungal wastes, the Mantis Lords. The Mantis Lords is an optional boss in the game of Hollow Knight, much like most of the bosses in the game. Mantis Lords are a group of proud warriors that lead their tribe. They had somehow managed to avoid the infection, despite their dishonorable brother taking the infection unwillingly. The Mantis Lords and their tribe have kept the beasts confined to the Deep Nest, killing those who would attempt to invade their lands. They would, however, grant passage to any that could beat them in battle inside an arena made out of their throne room. Unlike most bosses, however, the Mantis Lords are not a single boss. More accurately, they are not a single character, but rather they are a group of fighters that make up the fight. Our goals for this build are the following. Make a creature that emulates the Mantis Lord's fighting style. They lunge around a lot with good reach and have a basic projectile that they throw around that curves like a boomerang. Works well with others like itself, but a force to contend with on its own. We also want to make this creature's power level relative to the strength of the bosses in Hollow Knight. This means they won't be all that powerful, but they won't be hard to scale up with a few simple tweaks. Or you could just keep adding more. For reference, we'll be using the Creating Monster section, which starts on page 274 in the Dungeon Master's Guide. We will be using this to determine just how powerful this creature is by the standards set by the developer. Keep in mind that you can always shift some of the stats of this creature to fit your needs of challenge for your table. With all that out of the way, let's get started. You can of course call these the Mantis Lords if you want, but we're going to call them the Mantis Lancers to give them a more generalized feel. In reality, these creatures would be diminutive, but that's no fun. So we're going to go with the size of medium. This seems to make sense as the knight himself seems to be on the small side. You could argue large, but be aware of the changes that makes for positioning. These are of course bugs and will be a beast, not anything special there. For alignment, we're going to go with lawful neutral. The Mantis Lords are proud and noble warriors. They keep their end of the deals and will respect any that beat them. I have chosen to go with 16 strength, 15 dexterity, 13 constitution, 7 intelligence, 13 wisdom, and 12 charisma. The Lancers are strong. The main weapon they use is a lance, but with the obvious implications of using that, we will be sticking to a long spear instead. They are also fast. So fast the player can't track them at times. We will address this with an ability later. Within the context of Hollow Knight, the three of them combined have above average hit points for the relative part of the game that you are at, so they won't be getting any kind of real bonuses there. However, they did resist the infection, so there is something there for sure. While they're not dumb like most animals, they are not all that smart. They won't be casting spells at you anytime soon. They are aware enough to observe outsiders roaming about in their land, so a 13 seems generous enough. They are also leaders of their tribe, so some social skills are needed here. The Mantis Lords are a relatively early boss, and with the assumption that the final boss is around CR 25, considering that it is effectively a demigod, I'm aiming for something to the effect of CR 4. Tough enough that it will kill you early if you're not strong or smart yourself, but not too powerful that you can't use them as fodder minions later in the game. The Lords, unlike most of the bosses in Hollow Knight, do not actually have armor on, relying on their mobility to stay ahead and surprise their prey. I feel bad with them having an armor class of 12, so we'll give them some natural armor as they are bugs with an exoskeleton, moving it up to 13. The Lords are not known for taking hits or rolling with the punches. As stated before, they won't have a huge amount of hit points, and the plan is for your players to be fighting more than one of them at a time. I also like numbers that end in 0s and 5s, so we're going to go with 75. No special damage vulnerabilities or resistances to these creatures. We want this creature to hit regularly, but not so much that it's going to kill your players. Plus 5 is good here. Most characters have an armor class of 16 or better at 4th level, with good defensive options, should be able to keep the hits from stacking up and overrunning them. As I had mentioned before, we are giving the Lancers a long spear. Not a real weapon, I know. We're going to give their attack a solid 2d8 plus 3 damage. 2 attacks, and then have something like a follow-up attack that they can do after another one of their kind attacks. Average damage per round from one of these will be about 24 damage, assuming all attacks hit. The caveat here is that if there's 2 or more of them, the damage will increase to 36. enough to take down most of a typical party at level 4, but not so much that tougher characters shouldn't be able to handle that. These creatures aren't going to have any save DC, so we can just skip over that part. This creature, like anything that isn't a spellcaster, has multi-attack. Just one more attack. It also has a reaction that allows it for it to attack against the same target that was just attacked by another Lancer. They do have claw-like forelegs, so we can add those to them. It also has a simple projectile that looks like an air slashing ability. There are countless ways we can do this, but it seems to be a Mantis thing in Hollow Knight. So we can have an ability from their forelegs. Lastly, we need to address the fact that they are one of the few bosses that vanish from view. We're going to give it a bonus action that teleports it 10 feet. Not far, just far enough to keep it from taking attacks, and allows for it to get to wherever it wants to be. To go along with this quick mobility, the lords are fast, so a good 40 feet of movement coupled with a small jaunt will serve them well. Mantis lords and their tribe are strong both body and mind. This is evidence of the fact that they did not fall to the corruption that ended Hollow Nest. Granting them a +2 on their con and wisdom saves fits quite well. It's no small secret that I think the CR system in 5e is complete trash, but that's what the game runs off of. This creature has a CR on the high end of 3 and the low end of 4, so it fits what we're looking for. Keep in mind that the damage you have with the Lancers increases faster the more of them you have, meaning if you have 2 or more, treat them as though they are CR4. To help with the embodiment of fast movement, we're giving the Lancers a +2 to their acrobatic skills, as well as a +2 to their persuasion. They became leaders and struck a deal with Hollow Nest to keep out of a war after all. The creatures that they are based on doesn't have any particularly great senses, but they do have a wide vision. The way their eyes are shaped and move, and especially with their head being able to turn a full 180 degrees, allows for them to see everything that they need to at any time. I'm going to use this to make them immune to being flanked. A variant rule, I know, and probably one that a lot of people will disagree with, but this will also keep them from getting wiped out thanks to their low AC. And of course, being a beast, they speak beast. While the Lancers are on the weak side when it comes to health, they have much more when it comes to movement and creating opportunities. Lean into this, play elusive games with the tanks, and pick off key targets with 2 Lancers to secure kills. The Mantis Lords in Hollow Knight do not fight to the death, just until critically injured. So when a Lancer gets to about 15 hit points, 20%, have them consider running. If the battle looks winnable, then taking the chance seems honorable enough to me. If you go in with the mindset thinking that they are warriors with assassin tactics, you should be able to run them pretty effectively, unless they are defending their homeland. In this case, fighting to the death seems reasonable enough. I made a little something extra for you guys, with the idea of challenging the Mantis Lords to a duel rather than fighting to the death. I figured let's add the Mark of Pride as a cool reward. So I made this. The Mark of Pride, an uncommon brooch. A brooch made from discarded husks of fallen Lancers, folded in on themselves to make a cocoon-like shape. This brooch has 3 charges. While wearing this brooch, you can expend 1 charge to give the weapon that you are holding the reach property until the start of your next turn. Brooch regains 1d3 plus 1 expended charges daily at dawn. If you expend the last charge, roll a d20. On a 1, the brooch crumbles into ash and is destroyed. And that's about it. I really enjoyed playing through Hollow Knight, and this is a really fun concept to bring to D&D. If you want to have the Mantis Lancer page on hand, along with the Mark of Pride, you can find the link to them in the description below. So what did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Like this video. If you did, it really helps me out. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell so you never miss another video. Until next time, guys, have a nice day.